stereotyping comes from people's ideas of what other people look like or how other people do their things. It's also a part of a result rather of how people get socialized. And so the stereotypes we see is a product of how people think of others and how people are socialized in general.
I think there are so many stereotypical roles of black women and men in films because that's all that they know about us. And sometimes that's all that we portray. So yes, we have the good African Americans who do great things. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're educators. But the majority of the black people in the world portray the negative stereotypes. And so the film...
The reason for that, I believe, is because it promotes comedy. I'm not saying that black people are funny or women are funny in general, but the stereotypical things that they do, for example, blonde women are stupid or black people can't swim, they just use that to promote comedy. I don't agree with it. I'm not saying that all black people can't swim, and I'm not saying that all blonde women are dumb, but they just use it in a sense of comedy.
There's stereotypical roles in films. That's kind of what people want to see. I think it also creates drama, and anytime you're talking about a film, drama is always best. That's what keeps the viewer's attention. So that's why I think they play on stereotypes.
So I think this because I feel like no one truly educates themselves. Not every race not every race is similar. So that's assuming, for instance, Hispanics, that everybody eats rice and beans, that everybody speaks Spanish, and that everybody cuts grass. So when they say this about African Americans, they're thinking loud, they're thinking uneducated, they're thinking that they don't go to school, and that's how it's portrayed.
The use of the word true is very tricky there. If you should think critically about what truth is, what is truth. Now, I'm just assuming that the premise of your question is based on what we call the creations of one's reality. And people have different realities that they see. And so they might portray in one way or the other, but it doesn't necessarily make it true. And stereotypes, for example, whether it's gender roles or whether it is any stereotype that you can think of, again, this goes back to how people were brought up and how people were socialized. So you cannot say that that is how black men or women are portrayed is necessarily true. They are portraying it because of the way they think that it's supposed to be, or how, don't forget, if you talk about movies, they are playing to the gallery, right? They have an audience, and so they want to speak to that audience, and the audience buy, those things.
Do I think the way that people are portrayed is true to what we experience? Yes, to a certain extent. In a lot of black movies, you have the angry woman, the dad who may not have a job, the kids who are stuck in between. So I say yes, because those things happen in real life now. Not in every black home are those stereotypes present, but in the majority, yes. And that's just how our lives work. I don't really have an explanation for why, but yes.
Do you think?
I don't think that at all, especially in films. I mean, people are acting. Movies are all about acting. It's all fake. Some are based on true stories, sure, but in my opinion, it's not consistent with all population, with all a certain race or whatever it is that they're stereotyping.
To a certain extent, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. Maybe a mass majority portray themselves in a certain way, so people make generalizations about an entire group of people, which isn't right, but it happens. So that's why I think that's the way it is.
And from personal experiences, I do think I don't want to say white people, but white people tend to think that African Americans are all the same from what they see in films. That, you know, that they rob, that they steal, that they don't go to school, that they're having children out of wedlock left and right. And that's not the case. What you see on television isn't what you see in reality. And that's the sad part about the things that we experience in life.
Exploitation might not necessarily be the word, but probably to some extent, the portrayal of certain stereotypes may be tantamount to exploitation if you think of the fact that he makes profit out of that. So yes, to some extent, but I don't think that it's different from what I've explained earlier on.
Do you think the portrayal of women in mainstream films are accurate?
Again, they would say it's accurate because they are creative.
No, I don't think Tyler Perry movies exploit black people at all. I think they're very honest. Sometimes they can be a hard pill to swallow, but that's who we are. And at some point, we just have to take it and say, okay, black families experience the mother who let her husband rape her daughter. Black families experience broken homes. Black families experience the drug dealer mom. So it's not exploiting, it's just reality.
I am a strong believer that Tyler Perry exploits black people. He makes it seem as though every African American grandmother is loud, angry, and hits other people's children, when that's not the case. There's a lot of sweet, older, gentle grandparents. The same thing with Tyler Perry films when he talks about, I don't like that he talks about men are always cheating, women are always on drugs. That's literally his storyline for every single one of his films, and I don't agree with. That's why I boycott Tyler Perry films.
Their own realities, and it depends again on the movie at hand. It depends on what you're watching and how it is being portrayed. But generally, a typical example is the portrayal of women as quote and unquote sex objects. I think there is no scientific, logical, way of thinking about women as sex objects to be legitimate. Okay, and so if women are portrayed as such, why should we say that that is accurate, right? Again, it's stereotypes. Let me give you one. I've mentioned this on a number of occasions. How people think about issues. So a stereotype is if they see women as sex objects and they say that, for example, sex sells, then obviously there is the tendency to play to the gallery, to play to those who think of women as sex objects and to portray women as such to them. But if society begins to evolve and we begin to think critically about how the media portrays women in general, and we see that there's too much portrayal of women as sex objects, we will resent that kind of issue, and again, we might call that exploitative.
Thank you.
For the most part, I would say no. I'm kind of torn because again, it's like some are, but some are not. I feel like it's a bad image to give like the younger generation coming up because they don't have that older knowledge to know, okay, every woman isn't a whore, every woman isn't a prostitute, every woman isn't selling her body. There are women who do positive things. So yes and no. As a whole, the film industry could do a lot better though at portraying.
No, I don't see any betrayal. There are some great women in the history of the U.S. There's great women everywhere.
So, how do you feel that all the roles of women in movies are never, it's all either about finding love or they're being like a boss. You know what I mean? Like they're a bitch in the movie. Like, do you think that's a stereotype, and how do you feel about that?
No, I don't think all women are bitches or all women just fall in love. There's a lot of great films out there with women actresses that they're great at their job. They're great at acting, and that's why they choose those actors. Sometimes the role, they might want it as a woman, whatever reason the director wanted a woman for the role, but in my opinion, it's just great acting. It's to make a film. It's to make movies. To make money.
Accurate, because in every film, the woman isn't always the same. She doesn't always portray herself the same. So I think they do a fairly good job of showing different aspects of women and personalities. You can never, but when you see a movie and you see a woman in it, it shouldn't be, this woman is the standard or the model for all women, because all women are different.
So just piggybacking off of that question, how do you feel about in major movies that women never play roles other than like looking for love? Like there's no women in CEO roles, there's no women being the boss, there's no women in any roles other than playing this like love story role.
Right.
Or being a bossy bitch.
Right. In Hollywood, it's whatever sells. So you take a movie like 50 Shades of Grey. I wouldn't be surprised if they came out with a 50 Shades of Grey too, because everybody's gonna go see it. So it's all about what makes money. It's not right, but like I said, money is the root of all evil. That's what they're gonna put on film as long as people continue to support it.